How many of you use Facebook? I do. Okay. Do you use applications on Facebook? Just one? Come on. Two? Maybe two? All right. Do you actually know what those applications are doing? Believe me, even I don't really know. So this was a pretty interesting experiment developed by a team of Greek researchers earlier this year, as far as I remember. They created an application, a simple application called Photo of the Day. All that this application did was to showcase a National Geographic picture, a very nice picture, every day, or so users thought. So all the users rushed in to add this application to their profiles without knowing that behind this nice picture there was actually an iframe that was loading a script for an external server. And this was basically the creation of the first Web 2.0 botnet, because all these people were loading that picture just to see it, but their browser in the background behind the picture was loading that script, and that script could actually do anything. It could, for example, tell their browser to download a specific page every 1 second. So they could easily launch the denial of service attack over a website just by using this Facebook application. So in order to combat this, Facebook launched a new program, a program for verifying the application. It was announced in November. It rolled out only in May 2009. But the problem is there are so many applications on Facebook. In 1 month ago, there were more than 50,000 applications. And I'm wondering how many of these will actually get verified. Talking about the fee, the developers had to pay a $375 fee just in order to get their application verified, which this fee is a little bit too much for the average developer who is doing applications just for a hobby. So I'm really asking myself how many of these 50,000 applications will actually get verified by Facebook, because it is a time-consuming process. The social networks don't really have, they barely have time to keep up with their growth, to keep up with the new features. They don't actually have time to also verify what external third-party applications the users are developing. And speaking of trying to keep up, Twitter had some pretty nasty problems. They are growing so fast nowadays that they can barely keep up with the infrastructure. This is why probably they didn't take care of too much of their web security. And this is a screenshot of the first XSS worm on Twitter. It is a cross-site scripting worm. I don't want to get into too much details. The thing was, one of the input fields in the profile pages for the user was not sanitized. Its content wasn't verified. So basically, anyone could inject JavaScript in that profile. So this guy, his name is Mickey. He got himself signed in all the malicious tweets that he sent. Created a JavaScript that would automatically infect every profile of the people who are seeing an infected profile. So this is why the worm behavior is happening. Because once a profile gets infected, all the people that access that profile, they're running the JavaScript, which also gets their profile infected. So it's spreading exponentially to all the users of the website. So the website was basically got filled with these messages. The lucky thing was about this worm, it wasn't really a serious worm. And this is a comic to showcase that. It is the father worm and the son worm. The father worm is saying, well, I'm spying and building botnets all day, and what are you doing? You're just sending tweets. Well, it's actually partially true. The Twitter worm was just sending tweets, but we've seen some variants of it that were also stealing the login cookie and the username for the infected users. So the users of Twitter were actually lucky that this guy didn't have any malicious intent. The only thing that he wanted to do was to prove that such a thing can be done. Now, Twitter had a lot of problems this year. This is a screenshot of the admin panel, which was hacked by a French guy. The interesting story is not that the admin panel was hacked. The interesting story is how it was hacked. This guy found one of the Twitter admins. He did some research. He found out all the profiles on all the websites of this Twitter admin, and he gathered all the information that the Twitter admin posted about himself from all these websites, from his Flickr page, from his Facebook page, from his LinkedIn page. And then he went to his webmail account and tried to reset his password. And one of the questions that you get when you try to reset your password is something like, what's your mother's maiden name? What is the place of your birth? What is the name of your pet? And all this information was already made available by the Twitter admin himself on the social networks. So he kind of used the social networks to get inside the social networks, to get inside through the back door for hacking the Twitter admin panel. Because on the webmail, on that person's webmail, he managed to find login credentials for the Twitter admin panel. So this is how it got hacked. Now, I'm going to end this presentation with a funny story. This is a website I found recently. It's called hackingfacebook.com, and it offers for anybody the possibility of hacking any Facebook account. All you need to do is to enter the ID of the account that you want to hack here in that field, and it just tells you that Facebook hacking costs $50 per account. So it's pretty easy. If you have $50, you can hack any account. I decided to try it. I entered a random ID number. I pressed start Facebook hacking. The hacking started. I was waiting and waiting and waiting. And guess what happened? Well, congratulations, the password for this account is successfully hacked. Now, all you have to do is to save the login and password. I click save the login and password, and surprise, surprise, in order to save it, you have to send some money to some guy in Moscow, Russia, Nikita Vologin. Eugene, if you know this address, you could probably pay him a visit. No, Ulica Vavilova. Yeah, so this is, well, of course, this is not actually Facebook hacking. It's just a website made to trick the innocent users into thinking they can actually hack the password. And I'm sure that this guy actually made some money from it. So there are people that are falling for these tricks. And it's very hard to use software to defend against the human mind. This is what I wanted to tell you. So as a conclusion, this is the result of a study made this year by a firm specializing in polls, in this kind of polls. And the result of the study was that the IT managers around the world are under pressure by their executives to weaken the web security policies. Because their executives realize the powers of social networks. Their executives realize that social networks can actually increase productivity. They can actually be helpful for the companies to do their jobs. But at the same time, they don't realize the security problems with them. And the IT managers who are trying to secure the networks, they're under pressure by their managers, by their executives to weaken these security measures so that anybody can use social networks. So what we've talked about is just the beginning. It's not just the beginning of the presentation. It's just the beginning of the social networking threats. This is actually the end of my presentation. And a question remains, which is what's next? Because these attack techniques that are exploiting social networks will definitely continue to grow, as people that are using social networks will definitely continue to grow. Social networks are opening up new ways for targeted attacks against individuals, because social networks provide so much information about the individual that targeted attacks can easily be launched. And at the same time, it will be very hard for social networks to improve the situation, because their business means usability. A social network must be usable. And most of the times, usability doesn't go hand in hand with security. The most usable computer out there would be a computer sitting in the middle of the room on a table with anybody having access to it. But that computer would probably not be the most secure one. And the most secure one, I told you about it earlier, it's buried in the ground, locked down, and with the power off. So social networks need to find a balance point between security and usability. So be careful out there, be careful when you browse the internet. Thank you so much, and this is my Twitter account. You can follow me, as I said at the beginning of the presentation. All right, thank you.